lots of sharing, and we'll keep on learning a lot. There's not much more to say. I'll just welcome you and thank you for being with us today. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning to all of you. Good morning, and thank you for being here. Like Yolanda said, we are going to have a powerful morning, and we are going to keep on speaking about inspiring women and citizens digital sovereign. We're going to speak about participatory democracy through collective intelligence and the use of technology with a very inspiring woman. She's Liliana Carrillo. She was born in Colombia. She's a digital social entrepreneur, and she funded lots of very interesting proposals such as Shining Your Light and many other organizations we will be speaking about. Welcome, Liliana. Thank you for being here. So please tell me, how come one day you started looking at ants working with collective intelligence? So you started looking at ants and ended up turning into the European Alliance for the Digital Development Founder. First thing is that I was born in an ant region. I know a lot of ants myself, being from northeast Spain. We actually even eat ants. That's true. We can confirm the rumor. I was born in that region where we could observe that whole lot of ants doing spectacular things, and that experience in my youth remained with us. When I was doing my PhD on artificial intelligence, I started doing something called colony optimization, and I transferred this to how to better use the data transfer pathways online. And ants do that. They do pathways, and they tend to follow the shortest one. They do follow the shortest one, but it's a lot of them. Keep that in mind. That's what's similar to EDA, to the things I do, to the European Digital Development Alliance. And it's many ants, all of them are empowered, and that's great value to do impressive things. They do impressive things, but you also told me that there is a special kind of ant going to explore new pathways, and those are breaking new ground, right? And you are one of those. Actually, when you look at the ants, you see the different ant paths, and they follow each other with pheromones, and they try to find short ways to take food to their nests, so to speak, to their burrow. And there are always ants trying to find better ways. So if there is a tree trunk falling somewhere or a branch, the ants need to react and try to find a new way. And sometimes they end up having a new path. Sometimes they don't. But those ants are very necessary. Some of them follow the old paths, and others follow random paths. And I am one of the random ones. With all the work you've been doing for so long with collective intelligence, actually, in this book, which I recommend, you can download it freely. You will read about many wonderful empowerment stories, and you told us that technology can offer us many opportunities to move forward, but it also provides inequalities. There is a number of digital inequalities we need to pay attention to, and you looked into this especially. There are two kinds of inequalities. You speak about regional inequalities and also gender inequalities. And actually, even when you were speaking with algorithms related to ants, you were the only woman around 8 men. Can you tell us about this, digital inequalities? Well, speaking about the regions first, during the COVID pandemic, it was very clear that in some homes and regions, they couldn't access the internet. So communication broke down a lot. In a city such as Ghent in Belgium, where I live, the government reacted. And the government gave computers to schools and young people, but in other regions, with not so much money, they obviously couldn't do this. I don't know to what extent Malaga or other regions managed to solve this problem, but this happened and happens. When we work at a digital level, there are countries such as Switzerland with a very strong money power, investing much, but in other countries they can't do that much. When we attract technology and knowledge, we break the balance of our democracy. If you have all the technology in places such as Silicon Valley, with lots of brain power and lots of power concentrated there. Yeah, we heard about the decentralization of power yesterday. And how about the gender inequality? That starts off at a very young age. We heard this yesterday, Paula. Since we are little girls, we get toys that do not make us make it interesting for us to do science. And we see this in literature. When we read in Spanish, we have the word doctora and doctor for a woman doctor or a man doctor, or científica, científico for scientists. But if you look into the literature, if you read most of the roles for jobs, they're always masculine. In Spanish, you always read doctor and científico. You don't read that those roles are for women. That's not something you can read often in Spanish. So that starts, like I say, at a very young age. And if you study degrees such as maths or engineering or physics, you will find very few women. And if you attend blockchain talks, most of the times I'm the only woman. That's quite impressive. Feeling you're the only one in a place makes you less empowered. You wrote a wonderful sentence in this book saying that every inequality we create at every level put our democracy at risk at a global level. That relation between democracy and inequality is very interesting, like you said before. What happened with the COVID that highlighted many inequalities in homes having Wi-Fi networks or computers for the children to do their homework. But much of your work has put these two metrics into perspective. How can you manage inequality to obtain more solid democracies? The most simple example is when you start speaking about the GAFA group. We have many companies, or several companies, with lots of power and lots of brain power, and that's had an impact on our democracy. They have much power. They can negotiate. They can speak to governments and try to find a different balance. But that also happens at a regional level. In Spain, in the Madrid region, the Madrid region weights more than other regions if you put everything on the balance. And we can also see this at homes. Yesterday we heard Esther speak about feminism. In a household, if the dad is the decision maker, as it used to happen in the past, not in my family, and I think it was not the case of Yolanda's family either. They say that at home my husband has the last word. He's saying, yes, ma'am. In usual families, they reproduce a microcosm. And the decision-making power is held by one single person. One of the things I like working on is on the micro level, and we should level this at home. We should work on this at home for children as well, so they have a voice heard. I would like to hear how you made the decision to take all your work with collective intelligence, citizenship, democracy, and launch CollectiveUP. That's something that sprouted out of my heart, and I was working with ants in research and saw that every individual adds value. So let's work on collective intelligence. And CollectiveUP is actually Collective Up from Collective Upgrade, to empower ourselves individually so we can empower the whole group together and reach higher goals. Just like the ants. One single ant can't build a bridge by itself. It takes many ants. Well, the same way we can work with our individual empowerment to reach collective goals that are much higher, much bigger. I'm ambitious, and the goals I set for myself, just like Yolanda, are quite high. And I love working for our democracy. That's kind of my target, my final destination. It's been very interesting for me to look into your career and delve into something I actually didn't know. Liquid democracy. That's not a potion for eternal youth, or that's not a perfume. Liquid democracy. It sounds great, but it is a way to understand democracy in a more fluid way, in a more participatory way. Can you tell us about this more? We traditionally work in a more representative democracy, and that means that I vote, I have my decision power at a government level by voting for one person, for one party. And very often, these people are so far away from us that we can't really know who they are. We don't know what their agenda is. We don't know what they're interested in. We don't know what they're excited about. And it's usually one person, such as the president of the government or a prime minister. That person should somehow know about everything, but obviously they don't. With liquid democracy, what we do is to share power. We decentralize power. It is not about voting a person that's far away from us, but rather about voting someone close we rely on. And I'll catch you in this. If it was something related to journalism, about freedom of expression, I would say if it's about this, I would go for Paula. I'll vote Paula. And she'll make the decision. I trust you, and I believe that you will make a much better decision than myself. So that's the trust I put in you. And wouldn't it challenge the usual idea we have about politics, where we choose one single representative who doesn't know much about many aspects? Wouldn't that challenge or impact the way we understand the work of politicians. The interesting thing here is that we would tend to vote for people passionate about something, who know a lot about something, such as Greta, for instance. If it's about climate, we can say that woman is fighting for climate more than anyone I know. She's very young, but she is a benchmark. So democracy would tend to be more fluid, to flow more, and we will turn to experts. We would vote somehow for experts on a topic. Are you kicking us out? Time flies. Okay, I don't want to leave without hearing about one of your latest projects in line with empowerment, democracy. Can you tell us how one fine day you started working with your daughter and Minecraft to create a project that was replicated internationally? Well, it's a project that I hold very dear. Young citizens' participation and individual and collective empowerment for democracy is something I'm passionate about. And what we're doing, we started, my daughter and myself. My daughter is in the autistic spectrum, and she can't attend school. So both together at home, I was working and she was studying, and we ended up creating something very beautiful to co-create cities together. And I put the co-creation methodology, and I set up the whole devices as an IT expert, and she created the world she wanted. And that's how we started. Do you know about Minecraft? That's a digital game, and you play with blocks to create beautiful worlds. And that's how we started with this project, Youth for Building Houses, where we replicated what I did with my sister at different levels. We are doing this in Braga, in Portugal, in Bucharest, Romania, Ghent, Belgium, and Slovakia. So you're working with young people and recovering urban areas. Yes, it's about recovering or bringing back lost areas in cities, such as that river in Central Europe. And the common thing about all these cities is that there is a river. So we are working about recovering a lost area with young people. They have a very powerful and colorful energy that bring all those solutions. That's where it all sprouts from. We set the setting, and they bring the solutions. That's true. When you feel that the city belongs to you, which is something we've lost somehow, it seems that we are all hosts in the places we're in. And when we change our approach, many things change as well. And I also have another quick question. To what extent does a society with more citizens' participation can contribute to generate less polarization? Now we're speaking about misinformation, tension on the networks, fake news. How can citizens' participation help us recover trust in certain institutions? Well, first of all, we're working in real life with young people, and that it takes us away from the digital world where we are very biased. And those bias, when we are on Facebook and many other platforms, gets us polarized even more. If you like something, the algorithm will push you to like more and more that type of information only. And we end up only being fed that kind of information. So we work in the real world. And the other thing is that we are building communities. We are learning to value each other, to listen to each other, to hear different points of view. And we come to a world where we are working together more, and we are valuing other people's opinion more. It is not only about saying I am A and you're B, so we're different, and it's not about black and white. We listen to each other and we create in groups. Co-creation. I'm sure you have many questions. This is one of the most enriching parts of the session. Now you have the opportunity to ask Liliana your questions. I'm Carlos Valencia and I work for the Bolivarian University of Palmira. Something very interesting is that you go towards Sigmund Bauman's fluid modernity. And I'm asking you this. We know that nowadays, speaking about sociology, we are moving from solid state towards liquid state, especially nowadays. And this is not only for young people. Everyone is constantly transformation. And we might lose our core values. The core values, according to Bauman, need to be strong and solid, respecting life, respecting other people. In that hyper-dynamism from new societies, from cyberspace, how can those liquid states fall into gas states that drift away? So there is a very thin line between those two, and I'd love to hear how you believe that the next generation will not mix those different states. Let's not forget what was done right in cities. Some governments think that transformation is or comes by forgetting what's already done, even if it was well done. It's important to continue certain social projects that did work. It is true, as it happens in my country, that big social projects end up because the governor comes from a different political party. So that's the gas state instead of liquid. And I'm sorry about this long and confusing question.
Let's see if
I understand this long question. Well, what I understood from your question has to do with how to sustain values in this kind of democracy, which is a bit different than the one we're used to having. That's the way in which I would summarize your intervention. I listened to you talking about a governor that has been elected, and then these social projects lack continuity when there is a change in government. That's, in a gist, the summary of your lengthy question. Well, look, on the one hand, when we're working with this kind of democracy, you can also combine it with more top-down, if you will, democracy. A top-down approach, right? From the governor or president, they impose the rules that trickle down. We have not decided those rules, but when we work in a liquid manner with the participation or engagement of the citizens, we have a bottom-up approach. We are letting ideas flourish, emerge, new ideas, new methods of work. So if we were to be conservative and still maintain this top-down approach, then we could make the one at the bottom have some kind of cap, some kind of limit. Say, for example, we, as a maximum in this government that we want to design, we would like for people to participate up until the level of picking members of the parliament, or that these people can become members of the parliament, but we will always want to have a president. But now, culture and values are something that we design on a day-to-day basis, and which we design, it's changing. For example, recently I remember that I saw a picture from a meat shop, and the owner was really proud with his meat in his butcher shop. And that can be acceptable nowadays, but if we look into sustainability, the green approach, looking after the animals, this picture, after 10 years, is going to be completely unacceptable, you know? And in the mass media right now, we see certain things like the way women were treated in the older times is no longer accepted. So values are ever changing over time. So they're also fluid, they're also liquid. It's just the fact that sometimes there is some kind of fear or reluctance to change. Change generates some kind of tension in us. But we design systems. We need to be fully aware that as of today, for example, the socioeconomic part and the economy is not working really well for the purpose we want. It's wreaking havoc. So we're in a process of creating new values and new systems, and we have a say and we have our autonomy. I don't know if I answered to your question with my intervention. Jan wanted to ask something. Thank you very much. It's really interesting. I loved to listen to or to hear someone talk about how they love ants. So where do you see the most important logs in those highways that we ants drive through? Well, one of the logs that I see is fake news. It's one hurdle. Fake news is a challenge that we need to tackle, is misinformation that we have in the social networks. Democracy relies on also on having good information that helps us make decisions. So that's a barrier that we have for ourselves collectively. If we are handling information which is not representing statistically the reality, well, then we have a very important barrier, a very important hurdle. That's one thing I see. And then there are some groups that believe or don't believe in climate change. What do we do about it? If there are people that do not believe that and they're fighting to say, look, this doesn't make any sense, and some of us are saying that this is evidence-based, that data show proof of that, well, there are barriers, but the important thing is information. Don't fall into the trap of having information that lead us to making wrong decisions. So that, I believe, is one of the most important logs that we need to dodge, and it's present in our platforms. One more question? No? Oh, really, Jorge? Oh, my God. Okay, it is always a pleasure to talk to you, Liliana. I encourage you to take a look at all the experiences, and in particular, Liliana's, that she also has a very concise and clarifying tech talk. And I would also like to summarize by, yes, but you can download the book for free, by the way. And a big round of applause for her because she has made a personal effort with special circumstances. So she made a special effort to be here, and I'm really grateful that she made it and that she could share her time with us. So thank you very much. A big round of applause. Thank you so much, and all our admiration. Thank you.
Buenos días. Liliana me...
Good morning. Liliana has inspired me so much that I could have been writing about her all throughout the morning. Liliana walks closer to the ant row of Bucaramanga. She dreams about references for sister ants turned into scientists, girls, boys, shaping up these ants rows, building bridges, crossing blocks, and they move against the grain and move over to the other side.